So MoFilm Studios asked a great question. They asked that if the law of conservation of information prevents time travel, why can you freely move through space and not through time if space-time is basically the same thing? I'm going to preface this saying two things. Number one, really wanted to stitch them, couldn't, stitches were turned off, so I'm doing it here. Number two, I want to make it clear that the physics of time travel is not something that is agreed upon. This is just discussing many different hypotheses. In fact, until we have a solid theory of quantum gravity, we're not going to know whether or not time travel is explicitly possible. But for this hypothesis, you basically have to look at the universe as an array of data. Everything that exists is just vibrations and quantum fields. And they could all basically be described by math equations. And those math equations are very complex and deal with quantum probability, but don't think about that right now. Think of it like programming code. Every particle in the universe is like a variable, and the data inside that variable describes where it is in space and time. You can imagine each particle having like 4 values, a time coordinate and 3 space coordinates for the 4 dimensions that we experience. Now, as long as the law of conservation of information is not broken, then that system works out fine. In the vast data array that is the universe, every particle shows up only once, and its behavior is described only once. But as soon as you travel back in time, now you have a problem. The same particles, the same variables, are described with 2 different sets of equations. So it's kind of like in code, if you were to try to define a variable with 2 different sets of data. You can't. You will just overwrite the variable unless you have a second variable. Which means that if you were to time travel into the past, you would have to be made of new energy and matter. And you can't get new energy and matter out of nothing. So either time travel just doesn't work because whatever particles would be involved in the you that are traveling back in time are already doing something else in that time frame. Or, to travel back in time, basically you have to create a whole new you. And that would involve creating a whole new antimatter you. Because to be able to make matter and energy even out, you could only make it in particle-antiparticle pairs. And then depending on how you interpret antimatter, maybe the arrow of time is different from the antimatter you, and it causes a whole bunch of problems. Again, is it definitely impossible? We don't know. Until we find that bridge between quantum mechanics and general relativity, we're never going to know for sure. But right now, the consensus is highly unlikely because of all the problems in physics that it causes and lack of solutions to those problems.